All right, this is the team for 100 Days Ventures, so I'm excited. Thank you for joining me, and audience, thank you for joining me. It's actually states and time zones that have been really difficult for California. We're getting ready to go to LA today, but we're having a lot of fun. But as you can see, I've been relegated to the car. Welcome, Arsh. Appreciate you being here today. Could you start off by and giving a little bit.
Can you hear me okay? It sounds like people might be having trouble with my internet. Network is rugging James, is what I'm told. This is not good. Airbnb internet lets me down. Give me just 1 second here. I can hear you fine and see you fine, but give me 1 second. Okay, it's better now. How about now? Can you guys all hear me? Arsh, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you completely fine. It's breaking out here or there, but I can hear you for the most part.
Okay, all right. I'll do my best. And yeah, very sorry about the internet issues. Yeah, I'm blaming it on Sacramento. That's where I'm at, and no good internet here. All right, well, very cool. Well, yeah. So if you were going to sum up for somebody in kind of like an elevator pitch, what would you say 100 Days Venture kind of set out to do?
Sure. So 100 Days Ventures, our core focus is how can the business world, these real world companies that see the intrigue of crypto and they want to kind of get involved in the space but don't know how. For us, it's kind of being that strategic partner to really bring them to market. And the echelon goal here is to how can we make business run in a real-time effect? In the business world, we're used to seeing quarterly earnings, things of that nature. But in crypto, from an investor standpoint, you get to see the immediate results, which is amazing about the crypto pace, but kind of tying real world companies into that. So for us, it's kind of changing the culture of partnerships. We want to bring real world companies into crypto, and with that, have revenue inducing partnerships for our Astro token, and just be that launchpad to bring business into crypto.
Okay, so you're kind of a launch pad. Can you talk about when you guys launched and how that went and how things are going so far?
Sure. So from a launch perspective, we launched 2 days or believe a day and a half before the whole Terra Luna crisis. So obviously that had its impact on the broader markets. And for that, we've had some results of kind of us having a drop in the nomenclature that we did. But for us, it's kind of letting that not define us, whether it's a bear or bull market, whatever the case may be. It's the aspect of keep on building. When the revenue is there, when the supporting structures are there, and we're really doing innovative things, to me, a bull or bear market can overall accept the sentiment of the market. But if we're doing interesting things and have true revenue to us, it can't take that away from us. But from an overall market standpoint, we did have the effects of the market kind of dump on us, but we keep on building.
Right. Yeah, that's all you can do through the bear market. And I like that. There's not a lot you can do about the market sentiment as a whole, but like you said, you can just keep building and keep doing what you do. So yeah, really like that answer. And yeah, I was reminded, I always start off my videos, but I forgot this time. Please do like the video. Okay. Don't like my internet quality. Don't like my technology, but like 100 Days Ventures and what they're doing, and like the video. Again, that's what the YouTube algorithm is looking for, to show this to more people. So can you kind of talk to us as investors? How do people get involved, and then what kind of returns can we be looking at? Can you kind of go talk along those lines?
You got it. So as far as actually buying 100 Days, so 100 Days is the name of our project, while Astro is the name of our token. You can go directly to our website, 100 Days Ventures, and you can actually buy our token directly from there. There's certain aspects of the Trader Joe UI that we're just not a fan of, so we took it upon ourselves to kind of have our own swap on there. We connect to BOD, we connect to Trader Joe. All of those are workable as well. but we wanted to have the buy feature on our side as well, just to try to simplify what we can. But for us, from an investor standpoint, is when we already have kind of established ourselves in a sense of pre-launch, we brought in a partnership with Little Orbit. Little Orbit is a gaming company. They're very well known in the Marvel world. They've made a couple Marvel games, some Warner Brother games, as well as a whole Cartoon Network series. Game titles like Kung Fu Panda, they were all produced by Little Orbit. So for us, as we took their game title, Ships That Fight Underground, STFU, and we're using 100 Days as that vehicle to bring it to market. For that, we're going to be selling some of their exclusive NFTs and more things down the line, kind of that crawl, walk, run approach of the first integration is how to make utility through their NFTs. Then the step 2 is kind of how can we have some tokenomic distribution of their protocol by us bringing them to launch. And the third aspect is can we have some kind of Astro integration into their game? But that's what that partnership focuses on. But for us is how, as we spoke on, is getting involved with these real companies and bringing them to market. So for us, from an investor standpoint, is all of our partnerships are revenue inducing and always get back to our Astro holders. From my standpoint is kind of we're at this low right now, but we only have this room to grow up, especially as the revenue is really piling up here. Till this point, we haven't seen that revenue flush in because we haven't been there yet. But in the coming months, that was one of our partnerships, and I'm excited here to kind of drop some alpha as some of our others that we're going to get into. But for us, it's just these partnerships will have revenue towards them. And for that, it's all getting back to our holders. And right now with the market the way it is, where we are before this revenue is kicked in, I see this as really the ground floor to DCA in.
Okay, yeah, and I love DCAing. If you've ever watched any of my videos, some people are worried about trying to catch the price at the perfect time, and do I buy here? Do I wait? And you just DCA in. It's just so simple. You can just kind of you don't have to worry about it. It's just, hey, I'm going to buy $100 a day once a week for 10 weeks or something like that, and then you can get in. So very cool. And by the way, if you're watching, please do ask questions. Especially if my internet's coming in and out, you guys asking questions will save the AMA. So really appreciate that. So how do you plan on getting? What's your marketing plan? How do you plan on getting projects to come through you? Compared to competitors, and maybe along with that, how do you compare to some of the competitor Launchpad products? If you were trying to tell someone go with us instead of with Pink or something like that.
And that's a catch with Launchpad is we hear that name so much and it's kind of watered down at this point. But for us, I didn't get to speak much on our team, but our CTO, Tommy Stevenson, is actually also the CTO of a publicly traded company in Canada. So for us, kind of tapping into those real world connections that we have, he's been in the blockchain space since 2013 on developing projects and bringing them to market. So for us, it's to tapping into all those resources and all those companies that he and Rohit, another one of our core team members, have worked with. They've worked with companies like Microsoft, Mercedes, and things of that nature and helped them with certain product launches. But for us is tapping into these real world connections that they fostered over many, many years that we just can't replicate in a month or two. And that kind of thing is we have some of these real world companies that are looking to get involved, but simply don't know how. And for us, it's just being that strategic partner to really pull them in. But for us, is what separates us is we have two real initiatives. One is kind of our new growth, which is about really pulling in the real world companies into crypto and helping them with things like marketing, pre-sales, launches, all that kind of fun stuff. But always taking a tokenomic distribution of that launch at any point. And then the other aspect is resurrection. Unfortunately, in crypto, the one thing that we always see is, unfortunately, is projects dying off. There's no shortage of them, and they always happen. Sometimes it's no knack of their own. Their core product may not be the greatest, but they have supporting projects which really are. So for us is to also tap into that resurrection mechanisms and take some of these treasuries and these user bases that are great, but that just haven't had a mechanism to be tapped into. And that's really the two core focuses of us and bringing those two things into the crypto world together.
Okay, yeah, and someone brought up a good question that kind of goes along with what you were saying. But we've seen a lot of these projects kind of fall apart, like Titano and things like that. What are the sustainability plans? What's preventing 100 Days Ventures from going the way of some of these other projects?
That is my favorite question. I know our community knows that I love answering the sustainability and utility questions. For us, it's just it all comes back to this. Is you have to have real world revenue. And when we see the markets and the delusion that they are, it's the aspect of how can we be dependent? Everything is always dependent on Bitcoin. Bitcoin dominance is always going to be a thing. It's always going to affect us. We've seen that with us with AVAX. But when you're bringing the real world companies into crypto, and with that, we're not playing the game of just bringing them into market. We're continuous partners from them. And one of the alpha that I was talking about was for us is we're also partnering with a major real estate corporation. And we're trying to change the game of real estate in terms of we see the biggest issue with real estate being the lack of liquidity in the space. So for us, is really tapping into that mechanism, as I said, bringing them to market. But for us, as we're on the strategic phase of creating their tokenomics and things of that nature, but it's always a volume game with businesses like this. We're focused on SaaS and supply chain, things of that nature that are not always the sexiest. However, they have a core generation of volume. And for us at 100 days, when we're taking pieces of these pies in terms of tokenomics, but more importantly, in terms of their volume that's produced, and you're talking over $100 million companies, at that point, that volume becomes quite substantial. Can we ever sustain this very, very high APY? The answer to that is no. And for us, the APY was really a vehicle to get to market. We certainly would not be keeping the APY at where it's at. In fact, we'd be taking that away altogether at a certain point. But from where we are today, that is not the plan for today. For us is when that revenue is really piling in and we really see that effects of that revenue on our protocol, at that point is when we will take the APY away. Because we understand that from a long-term vision standpoint, that's really not the right way to go. For us, is we use this vehicle to bring it to market, but that's not the long-term goals of 100 days.
Yeah, no, totally get that. I've always kind of seen, APY is kind of it's like venture capital, where you're kind of getting these initial funds to kind of build something. And that was actually the next question someone had is we're currently inflationary. Do we have plans to flip to a deflationary or fixed supply model?
And the answer to that is certainly for us, as I spoke on, is just waiting for that revenue to kick in. And really because of the speed of that revenue, of course, because we're working with the real world partners and real world companies, it takes a little bit longer than we're used to the speed in the crypto world. But we're trying to work with them and bring them as fast to market as we can. It just takes a little time. But for us, as that revenue is coming in, we will certainly be flipping to a deflationary model. This is not the core model forever at all.
Okay. And then next question is from Jorn. How many real world partnerships are currently secured and what type of companies are they?
Sure. So our first one, as we spoke, was a gaming company called Little Orbit, particularly their game title STFU. We also have a real estate partnership that's 100% done. In terms of it is a partnership, but we're working on the strategic as to how exactly that works. Because one aspect becomes the actual tokenization of it, another aspect becomes the volume of it. So those are two things we're currently working through on the real estate side. On the supply chain side, we're also working with a partner there on developing their platform there for them to really bring their market and use the technology of blockchain to really innovate on what they're doing. Because as we've seen, that is a major industry in the real world that has a substantial amount of year-to-year volume. Another aspect that we're working on is also kind of the sports world. How can we get involved with that? And we have two major initiatives that we're actually working through on that side that'll really revolutionize the sports world and integration into crypto in a way that we haven't necessarily seen. I can't give too much on that one. That is actually, no one's heard that one from our AMAs before, but that is a core focus to us, and that'll be in market in July. About July is when that'll be coming to market. But that's two initiatives that really will change up the sports world in a very fun and innovative way that we're excited to bring to market.
Okay, very cool. And then can you talk a little bit along with this question? Did you guys do a price prediction or what impact on the actual price of Astro, the revenue generated by the real world partnerships would have? Can you talk a little bit about how the revenue generated by these real world companies is going to support the token price?
You got it. So as far as the price prediction, I never want to throw out a price prediction because to me, it's a shot in the dark. Of course, I'm going to say the highest number possible, but the real tune is we have to be realistic as what is the impact on a price standpoint. But really, again, not letting the market dictate us. The market is what it is, and that controls us to a standpoint. Really not letting that get in our heads all the time. We just keep doing our thing and rolling with the punches. So from a price prediction standpoint, I don't want to throw a number out there. Now, in terms of what matters is how does this affect the Astro price, and what does that mean? So for us, for instance, on a real estate partnership, as I mentioned, is when you're taking over $100 million of real estate and bringing it in the crypto world and doing some real flips on that, as I spoke, is the true inherent revenue is from the volume. Yes, we will have a tokenomic distribution, and for us is all the tokens we bring to market, we want to offer that to our users and give them a little bit for free. If we're bringing STFU to launch, or we're bringing this real estate project to launch, is giving every Asher user a percentage of those tokens. While that might not be substantial, to give them a taste of that project and give them things like whitelist or whatever ways that we can incentivize or use to maybe give them a cheaper pre-sale price, whatever we can do on that standpoint from a tokenomics standpoint, and getting those tokens into our treasury and giving that out to our users as well. But that's not what matters to me. What matters to me is the volume in that revenue. As to what numbers that looks like, I can't speak exactly at that as to what that is, because truly is those platforms are not in the market yet. We don't honestly know how much revenue they can make. We know what we're doing to the sports world. From a real world standpoint, we see the impact of similar projects in the real world and what they do. But from a crypto standpoint, we can't speak on that revenue. Same thing with real estate. However, what we can talk about is we're talking several $100,000 to $1 million in gross revenue on a very linear basis, on a day-to-day basis, not millions of dollars daily, but we're talking on a month-to-month basis, several $100,000 to $1 million very clearly on these partnerships that we're bringing. And really, that's kind of the standpoint that our Ash shareholders can appreciate. But for us, is will we do things like buybacks and things of that nature to increase price? Certainly. But from a true price appreciation standpoint, I want there to really pour into the treasury, and so we can really amass that to do some great partnerships, which really are inducing to our Astro holders and bring utility with them.
Okay, no, very good answer. Could you talk about what do you think is going to be your biggest challenge that you face as you're kind of setting out on this this venture? What do you think is your biggest challenge?
It's kind of what I spoke on earlier, is the aspect of we're working with such major corporations, and it's just no fault of their own, but these things take time. And from a crypto standpoint, we work 24/7, 365. It's tough to bring that pace to crypto from a real world company standpoint. And that is really our thing. Is from our standpoint, I would love to sit here and talk about all these fun and exciting partners. But for us, is we want to have substance in our marketing, substance to us as a whole. That's why we put our name on this project and all of that. But from that standpoint is really working at the pace of crypto. We internally love to, and we would keep working with them on a day in and day out basis. But transitioning that crypto speed takes time, and bringing those projects to market takes time, which is the last thing we want to have and the community wants to have. But for us, is navigating that world, pushing as hard as we can, but understanding what we can and can't do on that basis.
Okay, very cool. And could you talk a little bit more specifically about like what services you provide? You talked a little bit about this before, but kind of what specifically, if there's someone watching and they're like, well, what will I get if I come to 100 Ventures? Could you talk a little bit specifically about what that entails?
Sure. So from a 100-day standpoint, buying Astro, what can you expect? You can expect things like anything that we're bringing to launch, you are getting a piece of on a token side. Any revenue that we're bringing to launch, yes, you have your core Astro token, but there could be USDC airdrops from time to time. There could be other token airdrops and other partnership airdrops, these kind of things you can expect from an Astro holder perspective, as well as the gradual APY, because right now we are rebasing at 1.91% a day. So you can expect that growth over time. But my advice is always to DCA in and really have that bad grow, especially while we have the APY, to take advantage of that in every capacity possible. But from a service line as to what do we offer, from real world companies, what we're offering them is something like marketing. Marketing in the crypto world is very different than traditional world. You have to navigate in the crypto world. We're used to having like these YouTubers with maybe 5,000 subscribers, or as big as someone like you, that can completely revolutionize a project by being a partner, being an advisor, even just marketing for them. But from a real world standpoint, we're used to having to pay people with 1 million subscribers and things of that nature that really can't drive impact. Crypto impact is very different than we see in the real world. It's very different in that sense. But one aspect is marketing. Another aspect is if you have this idea, is for us to be an incubator for that. I myself am at Princeton, Rohit went to Harvard, and Tommy being with the public relations that he has, we have a lot of people that were interested. So for us is kind of diving into mechanisms, taking those ideas that they have, helping them strategize, helping them tokenize, bring them to market on that sense. Another aspect from the crypto side is we can do things like a pre-sale, things like any kind of nature of that developmental help. And for us is to have a connection platform, as I spoke on earlier, was our resurrection platform. And for us is to really grow that out to be a platform where any project in need can connect with another project or connect with another corporation. But for us to always drive that connection through our Astro token, to really drive utility on that sense.
Very cool. So would you say that so far and going forward, do you plan on it more kind of people coming to you, or you're kind of going out and looking, or it's kind of a combination of the two? Or how do you see that from a marketing perspective?
For us, it's truly a combination of the two. From a real world company aspect, they're really excited for the 100 Days initiative, and they see the progression that we're having, where even the token may be down or whatever it is, they see that we're building something real. And for that, we've had a lot of companies reach out to us, but also there's partners that we believe that we can add a great amount of value to. Well, we'll do something like create a pitch deck and really roll out to them and say, this is how we think it to help to 100 Days community. This is how it can help your product. But for us, it's kind of balancing both worlds. There's some people that some companies that we really would like to work with, but we're also having companies come to us on the resurrection model. I mean, I'm getting hit up probably once every other day at this point for a project that believes they're kind of in over their head or they're struggling in this capacity and want us to completely take over. But for us, it kind of is the aspect of it has to make sense for 100 days. In order for a partnership to be successful, if it doesn't help both parties, in my world, it's not a true partnership. And that's kind of balancing that is that it has to make sense for both parties, but kind of navigating both sides. We connect with some and some connect to us.
Okay, very cool. And by the way, if you're on here, yes, please do leave a like and please leave a comment. Crom says he loves the chill aspect of this AMA. And as I mentioned, I'm on a 5-week road trip we've got 3 kids and 3 college students that live with us, and we're all stuck in one van, so we're learning to chill for sure on the fly. So yeah, but greatly appreciate all you guys being here. Let's see, we've got a question from Zippy. Great feature of 1% weekly tax fee withdrawal. Wanted to ask, what would be the ultimate strategy with Astro? Also, where does the 100 Days Ventures name come from?
Great question, Zippy. For us, it's really this 1% weekly claim feature was about is kind of the nature of we all have to be taking profits. We can't be hoarding a bag forever. That doesn't help anybody. And we wanted to incentivize this in a way where we understand that this may not be the best for our protocol, but we want to have a balance of what's best for our protocol and best for our user bases. And that's exactly what that feature is about, is every week, every 7 days, you can claim 1% of your holdings completely tax-free. Essentially, think of it as a 1% swap of your total Astro holdings tax-free. That's really what that feature is about, and offering that to our users where we really want you guys to start taking 1% profit weekly and let your bag continue to grow in that sense, but always have the profit-taking ability of this 1% feature. As to where the name comes, or sorry, James.
No, I was going to say, and then where does the name come from? So you're way ahead of me.
You got it. So for us, the 100 Days name comes from the power of 100 days. 100 days in the real world, we see on an education standpoint, on a business standpoint, on any standpoint, a new job or things of that, is we see the power of it. In the first 100 days is when you learn so much about an industry or a field, and every 100 days is a new learning curve. The first 100 days of a new job, you really learn the ins and outs of the job, and you grow so extremely well. But the next 100 days is when you're able to take that to the next level because you already have that basic understanding. And the third set of 100 days is when you kind of master that, you can push that to the even higher level. But it's to taking the power of 100-day sprints and growing and building in that time. As to far where's our Astro ticker come from, my dog's name is actually Astro. He's a golden retriever. But for us on that side is also Astro is more than that, where Astro is kind of the sense of, yes, you're harnessing the power of 100 days, and we don't want to be the moon boys or anything like that. But it's how can we take the 100-day power and use that, continue to rocket up and to build up on that side. And that's really what 100 days in Astro is about on the name side.
Okay, and then we have a question about what do you guys have like a particular blueprint that you have for success for a company, or how do you kind of go about when you take a company that's kind of failing and there's obviously some core problem, how do you go about diagnosing that, and then do you what kind of structure do you put in place to help turn that around?
Totally. So for us, at the aspect of you see a project and sometimes you look at the price and you see the price 80% and that can did certain things, but sometimes that can and did to everything because of the overall sentiment of the market. And because people are kind of going to the more secure assets right now, you can't always look at the price. So for us, it's really analyzing the business model. Is there revenue coming? Is there something like an inflation issue here? Is there a developmental issue that is causing these issues? I mean, in AutoSafety projects, we've had this issue as well. Before we launched, we noticed this issue was every time that there was any TATS feature, every buy order would be accompanied with 5 to 6 sell orders on the TATS distribution side. But is kind of seeing these fatal issues that may be from an inflation standpoint or a revenue standpoint or anything of that, and seeing what we can do there, really analyzing the business model in every capacity, understanding the feature sets of each and what can we do. For us, we did acquire Raven Finance pre-launch. But for us, that was really of the nature of they were having some issues. Their team's biggest worry was the fact that they were not willing to be public. They had some other issues as well, but they weren't ready for what the crypto world entailed, I would say, in some ways. For us was kind of bringing that to our venture because they were launching the same day as us. They had a core amount of users on Avalanche and things on that side where we really believed there was an inherent value add for both communities on that side. But that was not our core model. For us, for the resurrection model, we really want to use cohorts and really putting in projects together and analyzing their project, understanding it, and really amassing what we can do. But it has to be taken on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes that's integration straight into Astro. Sometimes that's taking away feature sets. Sometimes that's new developmental features. It really depends on what the product is.
Okay. And then Justin wants to know, Little Orbit's still a long ways off. When can we expect the first RW partnership that will start the revenue stream?
Sure. So from a Little Orbit standpoint, while it will take some time for their game to develop, their NFTs might not be as far out as everyone thinks. Yes, it could be a month or so, maybe even two, but it's not going to be as far out as we've seen. And from an OpenSea perspective, we've seen OpenSea, I think they take 2.5% of transaction fees. From our standpoint with our partners, we will be taking substantially more than 2.5% from an NFT standpoint for these kind of products we're bringing to launch. But for us, is kind of what I spoken earlier was that alpha of the aspect of these game companies, these real sports companies that have these products that kind of take what happens in the real world and they're putting a crypto twist on that, really innovating from a product side in a way that we've never seen. As to when that revenue is there, I'll say July, August, start expecting that revenue to start pouring in very quickly. Once it starts, it's going to come in hard. But July is really when I'll say is expect that sports partnership to really amass itself out to our users and expect that to really start piling in then. For us, as the aspect of, because we're dots and very public, we love to have the CEOs on these companies that we're working with come do a live AMA with us. We did that with Matt, who's the CEO of Little Orbit, and we'll continue to do that. But for us at this time, we really want to get into details. How does it help 100 days? How does it help them? And what does the revenue look like? And that's what it looked like. But I would say expect July as to when that revenue start coming in, and expect that on the sports side first.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, and by the way, this is a side note, but yeah, if you ever need, if you ever want to collab with me in some way or partner with me in some way with these, up and coming projects, happy to work something out there. So I think that's pretty cool. We do, from my perspective, one big problem we have is, projects dying and things like that. And so, somebody who's coming in to try and help these, I think is good for the whole space. So very cool. And Vincent says, I like this guy's explanation. So I do too. You're a great AMA guest because you're concise, but you are also informative. And so really appreciate that. And then Ready Freddy says, I missed the discussion that I think you may have been touching on concerning daily ROI. He says it's going to stick at 1.91% for at least a year, correct? So do you guys know timeline on when you're thinking about getting rid of that, or what do you say about that? Right
now, we are certainly a fixed APY on that sense of that 1.91% daily ROI. But as I spoke on, that is not the long-term vision here. For us, it's having it as a vehicle to bring it to market. However, from our standpoint, is when this revenue is coming in July, August, is when it'll really start raking in. From that aspect, July or August, I would say is when we can expect the APY to have a dissipating model or take it away altogether. We'll kind of speak on this with our community and really put these different strategies and visions that we have and really speak to you guys with it. We are not a DAO in any capacity. However, for us, it's always been in tune with our community. And from a core team perspective, we very rarely see crypto projects from a core team engage with their audience. And something we pride ourselves very much on is, although we're working on the background, and that is truly what dictates the protocol and is actually has that high marginal utility, but we also have to always be in the weeds with our investors, seeing where their head is at, what are their recommendations, and harnessing the power of them. Sometimes we really underestimate our user bases and how smart they can be. But from an ROI standpoint, I would say expect that to July and August, and we'll have more details of that as things are raking in, especially once that revenue starts coming in. But that's when the APY will be changing.
Okay, very cool. And by the way, if I don't address one of your questions, there's a chance we may have talked about it before. So this replay will be available right when we're done, and you can go back and kind of watch that. You did talk a little bit about this already, but maybe we could get a little more specific about where the revenue comes from. So like when you're, resurrecting a project, do you take a percentage of what they're doing, or do they pay a fixed fee, or kind of how does that work?
Sure. So for us, is I can speak on the one that we've done so far, and that was Raven Finance. For them, they had certain outstanding debts from a development standpoint, from they owed certain influencers, certain things of that nature, and they had debts that they had to pay. But for us, is we got a city council involved to make sure all those debts were accounted for, and that everyone was paid out to how much they were due, and everything was ethical, and there was no one taking advantage of one party other way. But for us, is besides those outstanding debts that they had, is all of that money went straight to our liquidity in that standpoint. Now, normally I would say that would go to our treasury or to our holders or things like that. However, for that particular one, it went straight to liquidity. But for us, is when we're having these revenue partnerships or these resurrection partnerships, rather, it depends on, are we completely integrating them into Astro as a whole? Are we giving them Astro token? If that is the case, that whole treasury that they had would go straight to our treasury, which would either go to something like a buyback or a partnership, or it would actually do a USDC airdrop to our users, is what we spoke on as well. But that's on the resurrection standpoint, if we just completely amass them into Astro token. The other aspect is if we take them over and we put them under our 100 days umbrella and we start running them as a separate organization that kits revenue to Astro as well. If that's the case, then that treasury would stay in that protocol and help run that protocol that we would run in Tune as well. But it would depend on if we're taking them over, we're running them separately.
Okay, so yeah, and it's going to probably be a little bit case by case,
Exactly.
because you don't want to cripple the project, just to make sure that you guys get paid. Like some projects would make more sense to, hey, let's take a percentage of it or whatever, and we'll get it down the road, rather than the project fall apart. So yeah, probably case by case for sure. And we had somebody asking about roadmap. So if everything goes according to plan, where do you see 100 Days Ventures? And let's do increments of 3 months, then a year, and then maybe like 5 years. Where do you kind of see on those 3 time frames?
You got it. For us as a team, me, Daryl, Roth, and Tommy, we have a sense of real world things that we've done. But for us, is we really came into space to revolutionize in certain ways and innovate in certain ways. For us, is we're not in this for a day, a week, a month. We're in this for as long as we can be. We love this world, and we think there's a lot that we can do in this world. But from a standpoint of 3 sits in a year, is from a 3-month standpoint, I would say at that point is you can expect us to bring these sports platforms to market. You can also expect the Little Orbit partnership to really amass itself a lot greater than we are now. As to whether a game title will be done by then, I believe their release is Q3. I'm not sure if their title will be done by then, but the NFT side would certainly be done by then. But for us, as I would say, the Little Orbit NFTs, but more importantly, it's these sports partners that I'm speaking on, they will be a brought into market. And when you guys see the tokenomic distribution that we're taking of them, I think it will really blow everyone's mind as to how much we are serious about it and how much companies really see the utility that we bring to market for them. So on the 3-month timeline, I would say expect revenue to really start pouring in from those. From a 6-month standpoint, I would say start having that real estate partnership start flowing in. That will be in about September, I would say, is when that revenue will start kicking in. We'll have the evolution of that before, but September is really when that will start dialing in. So I would say even from a 6-month timeline, expect over 5 to 10 real-world companies that are using 100 days to bring to market. And from a year standpoint, we really want to be that connector of every single company that we believe has value to 100 days in us and continue to grow out and just bring every company that we see that has something they can add from the Web3 world and just continue to bring them to market and have our users and their users have the real-time effects of what crypto has.
Okay, and then what can we do as a community to kind of help spread the word about 100 Days Ventures? Like what can we do to help in the marketing process? What kind of word of mouth can we do?
For us, it's just, to me, it's kind of the word of mouth is speaking to your friends, your family, people that are interested in crypto, but are tired of being rug pulled. They're tired of being false promised. And we don't want to promise you the world, but we want to make it realistic always, but deliver on what we say. If we're saying something, it will happen. We are people of our word in that sense. But for us, I really want to focus on the aspect of spreading the word. We just opened up our Telegram, our Reddit, and we're really trying to get involved anywhere and everywhere we can. So if anyone has some connections or anyone that think we should speak with or anything at all, just spread the word as much as you can through social media, through Twitter, We're always doing fun giveaways, things of that nature. Just get involved with our community. Hop on a Discord, hop on a Telegram or Reddit or wherever you find yourself that you love. But just hop in there and talk away with us and spread the channels to everywhere else you know.
Okay. And then actually, I kind of want to go back to the roadmap question. What's kind of the big vision? So if you look ahead, we'll say 5 or 10 years or just, so far off that you can do kind of dreams. But where do you kind of see crypto and 100 Days Ventures? And I don't know, where do you kind of see your company at that?
Sure. For me, from a 100-day standpoint, from an overall crypto standpoint, I think that in 10 years' time, we will see some very high Bitcoin numbers. As to what that number is, $500,000, $1 million, who knows? But I know that at 10 years from now, people will start really seeing the power of blockchain and how that can really improvise our real world. And even the smallest things that we don't think about, how blockchain can really take over those industries and really amass those resources in a way that we haven't seen. I think supply chain is a world that we'll really see completely reinvented. And it's something that not many people care about. When you start seeing how many billions of dollars are pouring into there, I think that's when things get interesting, is when you start looking at things that are not always sexy, but they have that real world volume. And I think we'll see blockchain and crypto really take that over. And from a 100-day standpoint, I think as these companies will continue to see that processing and crypto's inevitable success, not saying that we won't have bear markets or up and downs, we will. I mean, we could continue to go down, who knows? But for the aspect of, I think that real world companies will see the technological benefits of it and how 100 days can really be successful. And we'll see that when we bring these sports platforms to market, we bring this real estate, and companies really start seeing the impact that we're having. Although we may be considered a small crypto project right now, we don't think of ourselves that way. For us, as we are where we are now, but we're just continuing to grow. And I think once those companies will feel that effect and see that effect and that reputation is there because we've proved ourselves on that capacity, I think that's when we'll really flip the deck and we'll really become that launch pad for any company who want to get involved in crypto, using 100 days to be that vehicle and market here.
Yeah, I think some of those success stories would be huge drivers of growth. Like if you're able to, succeed with some of these projects and say, hey, look what we did here. That will be word will spread very quickly.
Exactly.
For sure. Yep. Awesome. Let's see if anybody else has more questions. Yeah, keep them coming. Somebody says Arsh is on fire. Yeah, keep the questions coming for sure. Let's see. Randy says, this is crypto. Yes. What can the 100-day community expect to see in June? Crypto communities are fickle. They need small, digestible details and achieved executables. A lot of tough words there. But what's coming up in the near term? So sometimes I go too long term. What can we expect in the next 30 days?
I think that's a great point, Randy. For us in the crypto world, because we're in here day in and day out, and truly a day in crypto can feel a week in the real world, and we feel that truly being in the space. It matters what are you doing now. For us right now on the back end, we're advising those projects that I spoke on and helping them develop their tokenization. What are they doing exactly? Where can we help their mechanisms? Where can we develop them? Things of that nature we're focused on our partnership side. But right now, as well as we understand that the crypto world can move a lot faster. Partnerships in crypto have the speed that we like and love. So for us right now, we're tapping into that. Maybe you'll see a partnership with a DEX. Yes, we are building our own, but till we build that out, maybe we make a transition to a different DEX. Maybe we partner with some projects that we all know and love. I think these are the things that you'll start seeing in June here. It's the first of the month, and we have a long month ahead here. But I think this month we'll continue on the back end, bringing those partnerships up, getting the revenue ready to launch. But I think as this month, we'll start seeing this dive into the crypto partnerships and do some interesting things on that nature.
Okay. And will there be expansion of the token into physical utility to purchase physical items through your ventures?
You can count on that. For us, as we're really focused on real revenue, right? And really the substance behind it and things of that, it's tough to really have a real high revenue for something like that right now. And we're focused on the high impact things. And also having the aspect of crypto is a global audience. I could go integrate Asher to a coffee shop down the street, but that doesn't really amass our users and help us in that way. But for us, as you can 100% expect this with due time. This is not truly where our focus is right now. But I can say this, that you can certainly expect Asher integrating some things, especially when we take away the APY model. I think that's when we can really integrate into these different real world kind of stores or business fronts or so a coffee shop and expect some fun stuff there. We've kind of already spoken to a few partners there, and those are still some ways out, as I mentioned, is we don't want to do those integrations until the APY stop in July or August here. But expect little things here or there where there's not just the aspect of you hold your Astro token, it has some real world sensibility to it, and that you can really do something in the real world with it.
Okay. And then Scott was he was excited to hear you're planning on partnering with other DeFi projects too. Can you talk about any partnerships that you've kind of considered or looked at amongst like DeFi itself, like you talked about a DEX or things like that?
Totally. James, did I lose you there?
I'm still here. Stable, it says. So
Got you back there. Okay, maybe it was on my side. Not sure what happened there.
No, I guarantee you it's my side.
From a partnership standpoint in DeFi, as I spoke on, as you might see something with the debts very soon that we're doing. But for us, it's tapping into the projects that we know and love. For us, we get hit up all the time by partners that we really don't see a value add to them. They're looking for something, some kind of integration that we really don't believe helps our 100 days community or helps them. It helps them, but we don't always see the in-tune benefits for us. And we've seen this with quite a few projects, and we've had to say no to projects that we'd love to work with, but the integration just didn't make sense in our standpoint. It really didn't help our users. Instead, it was amassing sell pressure on Astro, which is something that we can't do if it doesn't make sense for us. But for us, as expect some things on the Tomb side, expect a partnership there maybe. We're still working on the details of that, but I believe I have an innovative concept that I've come up with that really can define the Tomb world and have some integration into the auto staking world and have something fun there. For us, this is a partnership that we threw out there to some projects that we like in that industry, and we're still seeing as to how they'll shake out. Will that happen or not? I'm not 100% sure, so I don't always want to speak on that, but I know that there was some word out on this and some questions on that previously I've heard. So for us, that's something we're working on, but at the end of the day, as I spoke on, has to make sense for both sides. But expect some things on the debts, expect some things on little things here or there that might not seem something crazy, but actually are conjoining both communities and benefiting both. But we will have quite a few crypto partnerships this month.
Okay, very cool. And yeah, I've messaged you. If you lose connectivity, then just keep answering questions. Okay, you're doing great. You don't even need me here with the audience and with you answering. Let's see. Do you have any partnerships in the Metaverse?
So from a Metaverse side, Little Orbit is a gaming company, STFU. I wouldn't say they're Metaverse. From the Metaverse side, I would say currently that is actually, we have this whole ecosystem driver of all the initiatives that we're looking to get involved in. And those are DeFi, of course, Web 3.0 gaming, SaaS, Metaverse, real estate, eco sustainability, and health and lifestyle. From a Metaverse standpoint, I would say that is the only vertical currently that we don't have a partnership on. I would say on every other standpoint, we do have a partnership on. But Metaverse, actually, we believe that we ourselves can bring something interesting to market on our side that we think will be something different here. But right now, our focus is all those other partnerships that I spoke on, getting them to market July, August. But after that, we think that we can do something interesting as well. So from August standpoint, once all those partnerships are kicked out there, that's when we'll really be gearing up for a Metaverse dive in. But right now, we're focused on our other partnerships on that end.
Okay. And then why did you choose AVAX instead of BNB or Polygon or Phantom, and any plans to go multi-chain?
So as far as our whole team, we love all the chains. I mean, we love Binance. We like Polygon. Phantom, I'm kind of iffy on. Some of our team loves Phantom. I'm not the biggest Phantom guy. I'm very big on AVAX, Binance, and Polygon personally. But for us, as we do have plans to go cross-chain, for us, it's just kind of going cross-chain in a different dynamic. Things like arbitrage are not something we want to expose ourselves to. Yes, there's an impact positive of that, but it's also the negative impact of having your price arbitrage on different platforms. But we will have a cross-chain expenditure with Astro token itself, but also our partners is kind of evaluating for them, what is the biggest chain that makes sense for them? If you're a giant titan and you want the money that Ethereum has on a certain focus set point that maybe Avalanche doesn't provide, is maybe Ethereum made sense for that. Now, I'm not saying we're going Ethereum. Ethereum has crazy gas fees. We don't want to get involved there. But maybe for something like that, a layer 2 like Polygon made sense. For other products, maybe a Binance made sense. But kind of is taking on a case-by-case product line. But Astro will be cross-chain. It won't be cross-chain in the arbitrage sense, but we will be cross-chain and having the functionality on those 3 core chains. But for us is, from an Avalanche standpoint, why do we pick AVAX? We love the nodes that AVAX has. We love kind of the universities that AVAX was born out of Cornell, Ava Labs. But for us is, we know the people behind it. We've kind of been in talks with them before we kind of we're asked the question is, will you guys ever reach out to Ava Labs? Is that something you guys have in the pipeline? For us, we have done that. We've had some introductory conversations with them and kind of seeing where we can grow and connect. For us is when you become docs and as public as we are, we have a lot of these bigger, giant blue chip projects reach out to us and want some integration. For us is even on the optimization side. I think another alpha nugget I'll drop here today is we have an optimization coming up in the coming weeks here with a blue chip project that will be taking one of our models here from our actual contract side and doing some, I'm talking top 50 of blue chips here that really be partnering with us and optimize some of our contract features. But with us being as public as we are, we have the opportunity to really network with these big projects. And that's exactly why we picked AVAX Labs.
All right. And what is that top 50 project?
I can't tell you that just yet, but what I can say is for us is the elementary relationship with it. We're starting off with just them helping us with one contract feature. We believe that they can really add some high levels of security, and pairing that with being as public as we are, I think it's a match made in heaven. But for us is having that elementary focus there, be there, but also with our sports platform and other platforms, we think that relationship can really blossom into something really revolutionary. And it's a project that we all know and love, and they're the best in their space by quite a bit. So I think you guys can guess as to what that is.
All right. Well, it's not stronger. I shouldn't have gone there. That was not right. I thought maybe if I nonchalantly just asked you what the project was, maybe you'd slip up. But you're too good, too professional. All right. Well, hey, we probably better not go too much longer. Do more people have questions? Feel free to ask them. I don't want to test my internet for too long. Do you have anything else that you wanted to talk about? I feel like the questions people asked hit on most things, but is there, topics that we didn't hit that you'd like to talk anything about?
First off, I just want to thank you, James, and all of you guys for being here. It was a pleasure to be here. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this, truly. I've always watched your content. I've been a viewer for a long time. It's nice to be on the other side. But for us, is what I really want to focus on is that, yes, right now things are taking time. We're seeing the market bleed and pump. Who knows what tomorrow will entail? But we control, and let's not let the market dictate our emotions. We keep DCAing in, we build this to what it can be, and really have that revenue and utility support us. And being that launchpad for bringing companies in crypto and having that revenue really pour in. So I would say it's just kind of the takeaway alphas from today is the sports partnership. Expect that to really be in fruition July, August. Really expect that revenue to start pouring into that time frame. In September, expect that real estate partnership to really blossom itself. From an NFT standpoint, expect a Little Orbits NFTs to drop in the coming months. And an exact timeline for that, but expect a high gross amount of revenue from that, a large cut of that. And from a tokenization side, expect us that any product we're bringing to market for us to take a large amount of their tokens. But more so than that, expect an optimization upgrade in the coming weeks with a major blue chip project. These are the things that I want to focus on is the asset that we are building. We're doing a lot here, and that we may not always see those effects day in and day out, just in stay time. But that we are continuously building, and we will never stop building. We choose to put our name on this project for a purpose, and that purpose is not to be here for a day or a month. We will keep going, do whatever it takes.
Okay, very cool. And the bear market's caused us to kind of zoom out a little bit because there's not a ton of ways to make money short term right now. So it kind of forces you to zoom out and what's going to still be here in 3 months, 6 months, and what's generating revenue. I guess from a investor's perspective, what do you we hear a lot from a lot of different projects that, hey, we're having short-term issues, but there's long-term, there's revenue coming. I guess what could you say to make people just trust you more than some of these other projects that we've seen this happening in? And no, talking about Stronger did not remind me of this or anything. Coincidence.
The catch with and Straw is a project that us on the team side, we've been involved in that project for a long time as a user. And we've seen that what the issue with that team was this, right? From a communication standpoint, even with their latest upgrade, they did this out of nowhere. They said something, we won't change it for, I think it was 90, 100 days, or 30 days even. They said they'll notify us before. It never happened. And we just saw that change out of nowhere. It was unexpected. For us, we never want to be the guys that shock you in a negative way of that nature. Yes, there's something like things that we may have to move faster than we would like. But from our standpoint, we've done it once and we would not do it again. We will always have a structure to us and really taking our time, bringing it to launch properly with all the details and stuff like that. But from a trust standpoint is we put ourselves out here in a very DOS way, and we know what the crypto world is like. And James, you've done that yourself, is kind of, we know how the crypto world can be a scary place sometimes. But we chose to put our name on here for a reason. I mean, Tommy, he's the CTO of a publicly traded company. For his to take on the crypto side, it's not a joke on that sense. He has a very large reputation on that side. Rohit, our COO, he runs a very successful business franchise in Seattle on the gym fitness side, and he has several locations in Seattle. He's been an executive at many Fortune 500 companies. We dove into the space for a greater purpose. We saw the aspects of RUDs. We saw the projects of overpromise and underdeliver. And the last thing we want to do is be like them. We entered this space with a purpose, and we'll keep going at that. From a trust standpoint, I would say is you can trust us through our word, but our word has to have substance to it. And you have to see us in action before you just trust what someone says. And I would say you really start seeing that in the coming months and coming weeks here. And know that we put ourselves out here for a purpose, and that we would never stop on that nature.
Okay, very cool. Randy wants to know, how do you keep your kids from interrupting? This morning what I did is I went into the van. So I started the van, plugged in my laptop, hotspotted my phone, and going there. And Zippy would like more, forecasting. Is a $1 Astro a dream? Is that a reality or not?
What I would say is I hope it is. I mean, I'm going to say is we're going to do everything in our power to achieve that. I'm not exactly sure as to when that will happen, or whatever happens. But I would say is that we would never stop working towards that. And I'm going to hope it and say it will happen one day. But that's all I can say. I think Zippy, though, if you've been sitting on a small bat for a while, it might be a chance to DCA in right now. We're at some lows, which could be a good opportunity.
That's very, very cool. And I guess we'll end with that. If people do want to get in, they want to start DCAing in. We mentioned that it's on AVAX. The best thing to do is just go to the website, and then all you have to do is just buy the token, right? Since it's an auto compounder, just buy it, and then you're done. Like, you have nothing else to do. Is that correct?
Just buy and hold. And that was kind of the nature of why we picked this. It's so simplicity on the user side, right? You just buy the token, you get the forced APY in your wallet every single day. You don't have to do really anything. You just sit there and hold it for now, and we'll keep it simple in that sense.
Yeah, I do like that aspect of it. Some projects you have to go through 50 hoops to make sure you're getting your return, and this is exactly. Buy it, and then you'll wake up tomorrow with more in there. So, well, awesome, Arsh. It was great to meet you. I think you've been one of my favorite AMA guests, because you answered the questions but didn't go for 20 minutes on each one, and you stayed pretty focused. So appreciate that. So I just want to thank you for hopping on here today.
Thank you, James. Again, been a fan for a while, so it's a lot of fun being here. And thank you for your community and our community for supporting us here and day in and day out. Catch us on our socials. Hit us up on Discord, Telegram, whatever you like. But if you need us, DM us, get in contact with us somehow. We're always accessible. Shoot us an email, shoot us a DM, whatever it takes. We're always here for you guys in any way we can.
Yes. And I want to give a special thank you to the audience. Again, we could not do AMAs unless people came and watched them. And you guys ask great questions. Sometimes I don't even know what direction, like what questions are people going to have. And so I appreciate you guys interacting and things like that. So leave a like on your way out. If you're watching this as a replay, leave a like. That will all help more people get their eyes on 100 Days Ventures. So yeah, appreciate you, Arsh. Appreciate you, audience. And I hope everybody has a great rest of the day.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.